Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode number 4 of the NYC Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Mark Levine of New York City property management firm EBMG. And today we're going to be doing a deep dive into the world of elevators in New York City and beyond. And today I have with me as guests Christine Workman and also Al Centeno from VSA Elevator Consultants. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
There's so much to talk about in all of our elevator buildings, and you guys, excuse me, you guys oversee a lot more buildings than I do in terms of elevators, but
we do.
But it's a unique time because there's so many rules and regulations and laws that are coming up now that we have to take
they're
care of.
changing every day.
Every day, and that's, I mean, obviously not just elevators, but we are very, elevator centric right now. We're tracking all of our elevators, and I thought if there's anybody to talk to, it's a consultant that can kind of walk us through the different process, and that's why I brought you guys in. So thank you. Let me just give a quick note to everybody listening at home. If you want to send us an email at nycrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Again, that's nycrealestatepodcast@gmail.com. Just to, if you have any questions, we'll put them on a future episode, and we'll answer that. So elevators, basically, there's a new law that says effective January 1st, 2020, there needs to be compliance for a door lock monitoring system, right?
Yes.
Yep,
there is.
and that's coming up soon.
So we're in the middle to the
corner.
end of 19 right now. So January 1st is really the due date.
Which is really December 31st, because who's
Right.
going to be doing work on New Year's Eve?
Nobody. Well, in an emergency maybe, but that's it. You guys, I'm sure, well, actually, no, you're not the elevator servicing company, so you won't be
Correct.
busy on New Year's. You get to just relax. So can you walk me through what the issue is with this door lock monitoring and why it became such an issue that we had to upgrade or renovate our elevators with it?
Well, there's an added component that the city mandated that you must have. And they started this implementation, this idea to have this monitoring system about 4 or 5 years ago due to an accident that happened, a fatality.
Like most laws, it's reactive and not proactive.
Correct.
Yep.
Always when something happens,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So after the fact.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, yes, someone had to, go through something unfortunate, and this mechanism, this additive device, monitors that from not happening, preventing.
So what is it exactly
Preventative.
doing? What is this device essentially doing?
Well, it's actually making sure that the doors don't get jumped out of sequence.
Okay.
So that's your electronic circuit
Yeah.
and the controller.
Correct. So it's part of the controller. I guess before, if you don't have the system, you could bypass the circuitry. If you have this system and you try to bypass the circuitry, then it would seize the car.
Right.
It would shut
shuts the
car
elevator down.
completely.
Okay. So right now it's shutting the elevator car down if something gets tripped.
If it notices, right, that an electronic circuit has been circumvented.
Okay, so it's a safety mechanism to just shut it down. The elevator's out of use. How
Right.
does it get restarted? Does the elevator company have to come back and restart it to bypass that, to reset
It
it?
does need to be reset.
Okay, so that's going to be the elevator company. We don't recommend anybody touching it that doesn't know exactly what they're doing.
No.
Yeah. No.
That's a no-no. And
That's
that's
a
probably
no-no.
also against the code.
Yeah.
Against the law.
Against the law.
So
Go
what
to
I've
jail.
seen in managing properties that have elevators is there's a few different ways that we're upgrading to this compliance. There are some elevators that just require a chip. There's some that need new hardware. And there's some that just, sorry, it's too old and it's so antiquated that you have to just put in an entire new elevator. You have to modernize and upgrade. Why the chip versus the hardware? What are we seeing? Is it just is it an elevator that was manufactured after a certain year that's prevalent? Is it the 90s? Is it 2000s? What's
It is. It's based on the year that the controller was manufactured. So
Okay.
the rest of the world, the other 50 states, because I'm going to say the 5 boroughs in New York, New York State is also included. They actually implemented this back in 2009.
right?
So the elevator industry started making the controllers in 2009 like end of 2009, beginning of 2010, with this door lock monitoring, all of those components already in the controller. So if you have a controller in your elevator, in your building, that was from 2011, you've already got all the components. They just need to be activated with that chip, with the software upgrade.
So anything 2009 forward, theoretically, should have the ability to do the chip.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Are we seeing any that were put in 2009 that don't have the chip? Because I get some buildings where we think that the elevator, I have one new building that we took over. We think that the elevator was done after the law was initially established. So probably after that 2009 period. And we're trying to get the answer now on, could we put the chip or do we have to do a hardware?
You really, if it's in question or it's right on the cusp, you've got to go back to the manufacturer and find out and get the model number or the serial number and make sure. And some of them, depending on who it was that manufactured it, I mean, we're seeing like the larger elevator companies, the large international ones are still there and can support it. Some of the smaller ones may not be in business anymore. They may not be. So you may have to figure out, well, do we have all of the electronic wiring diagrams? Do we know?
Right.
And is there a way to diagnose and see it?
Okay. So and it's expensive. Let's talk about expenses that we've been seeing. The chip is roughly about $2,500. You could correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I've seen. The chip is about $2,500 for the hardware parts. If you can't do the chip, it's anywhere from $12,000 to $20,000. I've seen. We're
seeing higher on some of the older buildings because New York City, right? There's that other component of the fire service that has to get tied in. So the labor component becomes a little bit more involved. So originally we thought this is going to be a quick, easy, upload the software, turn it on, and you walk away.
But no.
It's not that easy.
Okay. And then for those buildings that can't do either the chip or the hardware, we're seeing new elevator, surprise, it's $150,000. I mean, obviously it's going to depend on the height of the building and the type of elevator and do you want to do the cab over and the controls.
Right.
But we've seen upwards of $200,000 for a new cab.
So have we.
For everything. So this is something that kind of came out of left field, but didn't really come out of left field.
Well, you have to look at your building and look at the expenses and say, do we have $20,000 to spend on this as a Band-Aid?
Right.
When we think we're going to have to do a full modernization in 3 years anyway.
Right.
So should we just look for funding and do the modernization now?
Well, not even that, but yes, you bring up a good point of, is it something that can last 3 years? And that's a longevity survey that we could do with a company like yours that can come in and kind of do a survey of that. But there's also around the corner, there's a 2027 compliance that's needed as well. And that's for emergency brakes.
Correct.
So I'm going to be spending up to $20,000 if it's not a new elevator now. And then in 2027, am I going to be subject to another
$25,000? So now you're really looking at, $40,000 to $60,000 worth of equipment that you're going to throw away if you modernize.
Putting really good money into bad.
Yeah.
So are you seeing people that are upgrading to the 2020 compliance now, coupling that with the 2027? Or are these two completely separate issues that most people are just saying, you know what, let me do the 2020 now. I'll do the 2027 before 2027.
From the customers that I've been working with, I'm going to say it's maybe only 10% are doing both right now. So and I'm going to say it's probably about 25-30% of them are choosing to do a full modernization, which would handle both the 2020 and the 2027.
So the 2027, just to be clear, is a secondary emergency brake, right?
Correct.
So that is a fail-safe if your first emergency brake loses itself?
Right. It's how is it worded? It's the single...
it's called the
single plunger brake
code.
So we can tell right away when we go out and look at an elevator, the main machine.
Yeah.
And this is only for traction cars. So only your geared, gearless, any of the hydraulic elevator, you don't have to worry about it. There's no brake.
Okay.
We wouldn't get this bolt on.
Yeah.
But we look at it and we can tell right away if it's single plunger or dual plunger, and we can tell if it needs it.
And this is going to be, you said it's about a $25,000 hit.
It's just
and
about
I
the
have
same.
some buildings where there's 5 elevators. I mean, you're looking at $125,000 and just, I don't want to say a patch, but it's essentially a patch.
Sure. It gets you through. Now you are compliant with the code.
Yeah. Wow.
And that's 2020. Is that also January 1st?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's January 1st,
January 1st,
2027.
2027.
First 2027.
Yeah. All right. So I have a question on Cat 1 and Cat 5 tests. So a Category 1 test is a yearly test that the elevator has to go through. That's an unweighted test that they come in, they do their checks, but we have, in this case, a third-party witness, which is somebody like your company. They would come in, you would oversee that, and then through the New York City DOB portal, we're uploading those test results, signing off, paying the fees, and everything. Now, if my Cat 1 test is not due until, let's say, mid-year 2020, is that a way that buildings that are subject to this 2020 guideline are able to push through a few months because they're not necessarily being tested or reviewed until that point, or are we hard fast on the 12/31/19?
That is a great question.
Thank you.
That is a great question. I'm actually going to bring that question up to the city. I was with them yesterday, and I always, we have us as expediters. Of course, we have to fish for the answers first, right?
Yeah.
From the city, the governing body of all this, and they don't have any stipulations yet or any enforcement methods of what they're going to do. All they know is that they're telling everyone that we gave you 5 years.
Yeah.
To do this.
But do they have the manpower also, is my question, to go through every building? And I'm not saying don't do this. Like, this is a law. Everybody should abide by it.
Right, it's the code requirement.
Yeah, it is the
code.
code.
You have to do it.
But is it something that they're going to wake up on January 1st, 2020 and realize that, we don't have the manpower to actually check it? I mean, there's so many little details about this because it is a new law, and like any other law, we're trying to figure out how it's enforced, how are they inspecting?
I mean,
exactly, and that's my job. I try to find that out off the record before it becomes record, and they really don't have a clue. Yeah, they're just trying to get through the year now with what they have to do currently. And the city's always understaffed. Right. Manpower, you mentioned. I don't think they have the capabilities to monitor all this throughout the whole city when this comes in effect. Enforcement, they have no clue. It's gonna boil down to the bottom of the ninth inning or 11th hour or maybe even the 12th hour until they really find out what they want to do.
Or is this going to be considered to be a deficiency on your normal Cat 1 or Cat 5 test?
I don't think it's definitely not going to be a deficiency that you could. Well, I mean, a deficiency is a deficiency. If you don't have it, you don't have it. You could include it, but that's
right. Are they going to shut the elevator down?
What are they going to do? That's not part of.
Right. How serious is it?
That's on our side, right? That's contractor versus witnessing. That's what you report,
right?
And then you file that report to at the administration. You file, millions of elevator companies with witnesses file reports, and they really look at each report and see these items?
Yeah, they have to hire a whole new staff to go through every single one of those.
Yeah, I don't think that's a thorough process that they're going to want to enforce it that way. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's more of every year the city does routine inspections, and they have a better understanding and log and scheduling of that. I think that's how they're going to try to monitor these things. They're just going to go out on their normal routine and they could detect, they could see if it's on there or not.
Well, and they can also tell if the building has taken out a permit to do the work, because you need to file for a permit and you need to get the inspection done and close the permit.
Correct.
So this is a separate inspection.
So they could flag if they know that there's an elevator building and they don't see any permits for an elevator. That's an easy way for them to.
That's a monitoring system that they could use.
There's 50 or 60,000 elevators in the 5 boroughs that have to have this done. So again, I don't know who at DOB is sitting down looking at all of that. I wouldn't want that job. No,
that would be a massive database.
It is. And I think pretty much what they'll do, first and foremost, you said weed them out, process of elimination. The ones that they have permits, obviously they're not going to go to those buildings. And then they'll just tackle the ones that don't have. it's kind of like a needle in a haystack too for them because there is a lot of elevators in New York City.
When would you recommend? So we're already at the end of 2020 compliance, so we're already in process. I keep a spreadsheet of all of my elevators, and I've kind of color coded where we're at with each one of those, so I can track when they're done.
Good.
For 20, yeah. Otherwise, how can we track these?
Yeah.
You know, for 2027, what would you recommend in terms of time frame? Is it something that any time before 2027 is fine? Obviously, as we get closer to the 2027 mark, it's going to become a little more expensive because the companies are going to be a little more tied for time, and it's just worth it for them to make a little bit more money.
We're seeing that right now with the 2020. People saying, I need this done by December. And we have some elevator companies out there saying, we don't have the manpower. We can't get to you until March or April of 2020.
Which is my question about the Cat 1 test. Can we, extend it a little bit by virtue of the timing of the testing? So let's talk about Cat 1s and Cat 5. I think we've talked a lot about the 2020 and the 27 compliance and why they exist.
Right.
So just a normal course of oversight is a yearly Cat 1 and Cat 5. Now, how is the Cat 1 test is yearly. Cat 5 test, I've always remembered it's every 5 years. It's because it's a 5.
Yep.
That's the weighted test. That's 2,000 pounds?
It's actually 125%
of the load?
The load of the car. So
it's not a set poundage. It's 125% of the load.
Yep.
Okay. And that's every 5 years. And similar to the Cat 1, that's done with a witness. And they're typically on the Cat 5 day. The Cat 1 is also done at the same time?
Right. You do both. You do a combination.
Yeah. And it's like a 2-hour shutdown for the elevator for each one, roughly. I know it's probably less on the Cat 1.
That's what we budget. With Cat 1s, we budget 2 hours just to make sure they can go through everything. Depends on how many floors it is because they've got to check every floor.
Check every floor.
Yeah, it could be 2 to 4 hours.
So what do you check on the Cat 1 or the Cat 5? What's the normal course of an inspection in a 2-minute synopsis?
I mean, fixtures, lighting fixtures, hall buttons.
Even you're checking the pit too, right?
Right.
Yeah, clean, housekeeping, car top. Yeah, it's more of
all of your operational things to make sure that nothing has been adjusted so that it's out of a safety zone or a safety range. Door restrictors are a huge one that we look at.
Yeah, and it's also more like repair and maintenance items, something that your maintenance company should be keeping up month to month.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually a good question that I have, I think, for a little bit later.
And hopefully your maintenance contract is fully, covers all of those items. So there's no, you don't get surprised. Hey, you just had your Cat 1. Here's a proposal to fix everything. And
sometimes when I, even between the Cat 1 or the Cat 5, and I have an elevator company like yourself come in, or in a consulting company like yourself come in and do a review, I get a list of, all these things that are not
They
done.
will be a deficiency on your Cat 1.
Huge.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, am I out of line to think that the elevator company that we have a contract with should be servicing the elevator and cleaning the elevator? And, we have all these issues. So
what am I paying them for every month?
Correct.
Yeah. A few years ago, I think it was a yearly machine brake testing law came into effect, right?
Yes.
So
brake maintenance tags are that's another thing we look at is documentation.
Right.
Making sure that all the code, what is it, the brake maintenance tag and the code data plates, that all of those are on there.
And those are physical plates that if you went into the machine room, you would see those attached to the brakes.
We go in and the last one was actually documented that it was done in 2013. We're like, well, we know it's been done.
And it's supposed to be a year.
Right.
Every year.
Yeah, you're supposed to maintenance control program, pretty much. Keep a maintenance logbook. When a mechanic or comes in and does his routine maintenance, logs what he's done.
Yeah.
If anything was done, make sure
Just it's documenting, and it's for you as the property manager huge to make sure you can prove that this work was being done.
Because God forbid something happens.
Right.
Yep.
Well, paperwork. Okay. Some code requirements that are interesting. So I've upgraded a few elevators. I had an elevator in the East Village that was upgraded, and we had to put a sump pump in the pit, which we didn't expect. And it's these little things that come up, A lot of these older buildings, they don't have maybe proper elevator machine rooms. So you have to alter, once you put in a new elevator, you have to alter the room. You have to alter the type of door, the size of the door, the self-closing door, the air conditioner in the machine room, the sump pump in the
pit.
In the pit. Like these are all, we thought that what we were going to be facing was, let's just say it was 100,000. It turns into 140,000 because the plumbing and the
because once you
ventilation,
once you upgrade that, once you touch your controller, once you do your controller work and swap it out, you have to bring the whole process, the whole system up to the current code.
And for some of these buildings, it's almost impossible to do because you're essentially building new structures on top of your roof now.
Right.
Correct.
Or what is the current code that New York's working under?
Right now, they're working on 2000 and 2003.
Okay.
Yeah, between 2000 and 2003. I say 2003. I skip 3 years because the K.
Oh, right, Appendix K.
Appendix K came out in 2003, so those are like
so it's
addendums.
All those, and a lot of elevator companies will throw that into work by others. Right. This little catch-all phrase of anything that's not the elevator equipment is considered work by others, and that's on the building.
Yeah.
So you almost need like whole nother RFP for all that other stuff.
I'm tired of elevators. How do you do
this? It's a lot of building codes as well that's tied into,
and then the fire
2014 building code,
the fire department code. So it's all these because they all work together as a whole process, system.
How often should the elevator company be inspecting our elevators, top to bottom, on top of cab, under pit? Is that a monthly thing that should be addressed when they come on for their normal visit?
They should definitely be doing. Well, that's like Al said, if they've got a maintenance control program, it should go through every component of their elevator so that they touch on every single part of it.
Right.
At a bare minimum once a year. A lot of them will say, here's what we do monthly, here's what we do quarterly, here's what we do semi-annually, and here's what we do annually. So it's on them to keep track of all of that.
Yeah. And we should have that marked out. And we like to have the elevator companies check in with the supers when they come so that we know when they're actually there. Because I have run into several big name elevator companies that suddenly it's 3 months and they didn't show up for their monthly maintenance.
Well, you have to check their contract. It may say periodic maintenance or routine maintenance.
Yeah.
It may not say monthly maintenance.
It's all in the verbiage.
And then when you say, but I'm paying you monthly, well, yes, you're paying an annual contract in monthly installments.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of just how are they wording it?
So the last topic I kind of wanted to talk to you guys about was when we're looking to upgrade, the benefit of having a consultant versus just having your managing agent say to 4 companies, give me a proposal on a new elevator. And there's a lot of reasons why, and one of them that's beyond us not being, we're experts in managing properties, but we're not an expert in the elevator and the components. So I would always recommend that one of my boards, when they're looking to do the upgrade, that they actually do use a consultant that will come in, review the equipment that you have, propose the right equipment that you need, bid it out, create a specification for bid it out, review the bids, come back and make sure that the most important thing, that any company is not using proprietary equipment because I don't want to be married to a specific company for the life of my job.
The life of the controller.
Yeah.
That's correct.
So you found that companies are willing and able now, especially to work on generic equipment, and only if it's what OEM, like the original equipment manufacturer, is very important. We kind of hit upon that offline before, but the worst thing that can happen to me is being stuck.
Well, it's you hope that even if somebody does put proprietary equipment in your building, that they are proud enough of their name and their company that they are going to maintain it properly and be upfront and honest and not lazy, but not get complacent in the, hey, we have a 20-year contract with you, we can slack off.
Yeah.
So someone like us, we come in and do periodic checkups for a lot of companies. We do quarterly maintenance audits, and we make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you do a mod, I mean, there's a lot of benefits, especially with Al's side, with using us to do all of the expediting on permits.
Correct. Yeah. You just want to make sure the overall, the main goal is safe elevators, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what basically we do. We make sure that your elevator company is doing the right thing to make sure your elevator is running safe for your residents, or if it's a commercial building, to write in
And
public.
looking at those bids, when you get them back, you get them 4 bids back from 4 different companies. Do you know if they're all the exact same scope, the same?
No, that's why we need you for the bid
right.
specs.
You know, we look
apples
at it.
to apples.
And we've come in after the bids have been received from some people, and they're like, all right, I've got these 4 bids. I don't even know what they say. And we try to do a leveling and kind of, is it all apples to apples and what's going on? And we can't even tell. Like, one of them will be a 2-page proposal and another one's a 30-page. I'm like, all right. And they essentially say that they're going to do the same thing, but they don't say how they're going to do it. They don't say when they're going to do it, and they don't say what they're going to use.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, you're getting a new elevator. Okay.
Yeah, it's a lot of wordplay on these contracts. You know, if you don't know the language, if you don't know the technical end of it, you know, anyone could put a contract together and just tell you they're going to sell you a bill of goods, but you don't know, you know, you're spending all this money and you're not monitoring, you're not showing up and looking to see exactly what they're doing, you know.
And I want to make sure that the equipment that they state in your bid specifications is actually the equipment being put in.
Right.
And
exactly.
And that is something that me as a manager cannot do during the installation. And that's why I always point a board to say, hire a consultant to project manage because it's more than worth it. You don't want to be stuck. You
And
don't
we
want to be
keep
stuck
them
with
on
that
schedule, and we handle a lot of the payment approvals so that you're paying them.
We
you're
know
doing
where
your
we're at
monthly
with the
approval.
progress.
Right. We look at it and go, you're invoicing for 100% done on this, and we know you're only 20%.
Yeah.
So no. So we try and we watch out for you guys.
Not only that, I mean, we have qualified elevator inspectors that used to be mechanics at one point in time.
Yeah.
It's not all administration. It's not all paperwork that we're monitoring. It's not all contracts. We go on site. We have our own inspectors, qualified and licensed inspectors that go on site and make sure that your equipment is what it is, what you're selling, what you're
and it's installed properly.
Yeah, that what you're paying
that's
for,
important.
what you're paying for.
We want it to work.
Yeah, and to make sure their craftsmanship is good. You know.
Yeah, we don't want them to cut corners. We don't want them to hand you change orders. We don't, you know, we're looking out to make sure you got what you bought.
Well, that's good. Well, I thank you guys for coming in. So again, Allison Centeno and Christine Workman from VSA, Vertical Systems Analysis. So your website is vsaconsulting.com?
Yes.
Okay, so you could check VSA out at vsaconsulting.com. Again, I'm Mark Levine. You can email us here at nycrealestatepodcast@gmail.com, or you can give me a call at 212-335-2723, extension 201. You can talk to me directly. Have any questions, glad to put it up. Also on Facebook and on Instagram, we are at NYC Real Estate Podcast, so you could find us all over the place. But thank you guys for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
And I look forward to chatting with you more over some more elevator work.
Yes.
Any questions, give us a call.
You got it. Thanks.
Thank you.